We're back! My camera has been out for how many weeks now?
Oh god, I don't even know.
We were supposed to do Race of the Week, but as...
We'd be done with Races of the Week by now.
Yeah, we would be done. But anyway, my camera was completely busted and on the fritz, so now we're going to start recording more often now. And just as in the comments I forget who originally suggested it, I have my second opinion.
Who doesn't have an opinion?
Who's my doppelganger dwarven cleric Richard, who plays in my party, and in real life he's true neutral. But it helps, right? I think. Okay. So this week we're covering elves and all their elfness and their pansy hair and their elves.
And their douchebag shirts.
Yes. High elves.
Don't forget the pansy rings and the long fingers and the weak bodies and
the big long ears that are easy to grab and like torque. If you're ever playing a fighter and you want to mess up an elf, and your elves are like the elves in Jak and Daxter, and the big long elves in your game.
Like the elves in Pathfinder.
Yeah. Well, not always. Depends.
According to these guys.
Both, yeah. Grab the elf by his ears and torque him. Guaranteed pass. Actually, not guaranteed, but good effects. And anyway, the physical description of elves. Normally, since we're both GMs right now, so...
Not very good ones.
Well, you're new. He's still like... Okay, here's a little bit of a tangent. He's an example of a GM who always says yes. How many people are in your party now?
Too many.
10?
More than that.
Okay. I'm the one who says no too much. I only have 5.
Off tangent. Okay.
Now, are we still recording?
I think so. It'd be awkward if we weren't.
We are still recording.
Well, now it's even more awkward.
Well, would they rather I edit everything? Or just... Sorry about everything. I'm trying to do it in one take. Now, physical description of elves. Elves tend to be taller, thinner, longer hair, basically no facial hair or body hair.
Nope.
Like trees. Anything to add?
Nah, their eyes are weird. Their eyes are like all pupil, and they're usually weird colored too, like amber and purple and green.
Well, they have the colors of nature, like you get anything from like the colors of fall to winter, essentially.
And they wear pansy clothing.
Generally.
Yes.
Here's another tip. If you're ever running elves in a game, elves don't have to be, like, they love nature and all that, but they don't have to be, like, the druidic types. You can have a group of, like, a tribe of elves that are complete barbarians. Okay?
That'd be interesting.
Like, here's a nice curveball. Have your party meet a group of orcs that are nice and civilized and fine, living in their stronghold. Then meet a group of elves that are complete barbarians, and they shoot arrows at you and everything for trespassing in their forest. It'd be a nice change of ideas, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. Society. Most elves live in clans, or groups, or families, or such.
Or guilds.
Or guilds.
Insert random thing other than community here.
Like, they tend to live in groups. Some elves live by themselves because they're everything from forest elves to city elves to desert elves to
polar
Arctic elves. The Arctic elves. I think you should pull a bear for a second, but...
Well, maybe they're a druid elf with a druid polar bear. That's what I meant.
I think you can do that, actually.
You can. It's just bear stats.
Bear stats! Okay, no.
Bears.
Okay. If any of you are still listening, thank you.
I don't know how you do it. All 10 of you.
Actually, I think I have... I don't know how many subscribers now. But anyway, I'm back. Now, since they tend to live in societies, they tend to be really tight-knit groups when they're living in groups, or when they're solo, they tend to be a lot more solo, like Lone Wolf. You're more likely to find a clan of elves than you are to find solo elves, but this changes from section to section.
They tend to be chaotic. Usually, I think it actually says right here, they tend to be chaotic good.
They can be chaotic, but just as many... Elves can be chaotic and lawful at the same time, because you can argue both.
Yeah.
Elves are chaotic because they live in the forest and they do this stuff. Well, my elf is more lawful because he's living in an arcane society because he's of a tower elf. Elves are kind of like humans in that aspect, where, like, drow are a form of elf, and they're evil, like, as evil as you can get evil. No, maybe not as evil as you can get, but pretty far. Like, drow are here, and mind flyers are here.
Nah, that's a closer than that.
They're below camera, you can't see my hand low. But you get the idea.
Drow murder people for fun. That's the best part.
We'll cover Drow later, though.
Okay.
Actually, we'll see what happens. For alignment in religion, as we just stated, they can do both, but I think they are more likely to be more chaotic good than.
They're usually chaotic in ways that they don't like being around clusters of people doing the same thing over and over again, following rules and stuff. They just do what they want.
Well, they do follow, like, if their society or their, like, clan or rules say act this way, they act that way.
Well, yeah, but they're not bound by it. Not
necessarily. Yeah, you're not bound by your elven clan, but if you leave your elven clan in the Dark Forest, you're gonna die.
Not if you're a Bamf.
Okay, but how many people are Bamfs?
Apparently a lot.
Fine, be that way. Okay. For religion, they tend to worship gods of nature, gods of the forest, gods of such, and free will and freedom, and all that fun jazz.
All that fun hippie stuff.
Yeah. And then, depending on your setting, some elves are made by different gods, and some elves are made by the same god. Or some elves are more influenced by other gods.
Or maybe they're all made by one god. Maybe it depends on your...
Like in my setting, the elves are all made by one god. In 4th edition, the elves are made by one thing, but another god influenced the drow. You know, and then maybe in your Pathfinder game, you have them in different ways. But...
Or maybe they just happened.
Or they just happened.
Yes. They
or
were...
you can use his setting and you have like a elf thing that was made by a god of chaos, and then
they're aliens in my world.
And then there's time flex stuff and a blue box with a man inside.
Yes.
Okay, and then after that, some other weird stuff happened. Or you have mine where they were made out of trees.
Billions of years later, elves.
Yeah. Tangents.
Yes.
We love tangents. Yes. If you can count the number of times that we go into tangents and mark that in the comments, we will...
do nothing.
We'll
appreciate it,
talk
but
about
will
you
happen.
in the next video.
Probably not. We will remember.
We'll try.
No, we won't.
Yeah, and if the person who originally suggested I get a second opinion is watching this, thank you. I appreciate the feedback. Okay? Now.
And if you're watching this, thank you for watching this.
Yeah. Okay, no. Now, for the alternative racial traits. Just as we covered with dwarves, there are many, 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 many eternal racial traits that you can change. As I explained earlier, racial traits can be exchanged for other ones. Like, maybe if you're playing a dwarf, you give up your stone cutting to be more stubborn, or your this to be able to drink more. Like in my last video, I said about the dwarves who were so stubborn you gain a bonus to will saves.
No!
It's like, no! Here's another example, because I always play arcane characters. Here's arcane focus for an elf. For giving up your weapon familiarity, you gain bonuses to using your spellcraft and your concentration and such with your spells. Or here's another one for dark vision or desert runner. So if you play an elf who's from the desert or from like a wasteland area, there you go.
And dark vision, self-explanatory.
Does anybody want the vision rules explained?
No.
If do so, say so. If not, I'm going to assume you know what dark vision is.
I hear all 10 people saying no.
Okay. Alright. But how many of them know what bright vision is?
I heard all 10 people saying I don't care.
Fine. Okay. Dream Speaker, which is an interesting one. You basically gain bonuses with your charisma against saves. There are places other immunities.
That's interesting. The elves can get elemental resistance, which gives them, depending on what environment they live in, they gain elemental resistance to cold, electricity, or fire, or stuff like that. And yeah, that's pretty decent to throw in there.
Well, the thing with elemental resistance is that it's so easy to power game.
Oh yeah, it's only resistance 5.
If you want 5,
like 5.
Maybe the difference between dying or not. There's like if with this one, it replaces your elven immunity. So if you no longer, let's say you're,
means that someone casts sleep on you, you're that much more likely to fall asleep.
Which isn't that high.
Yeah, it's still not that high.
Ooh, level 1 spell, sleep.
Ooh, scary.
So scary. I'm gonna have someone in the comments like scream at me now for saying sleep isn't that great.
It's not. No. Don't even kid yourself.
No, it's good if you know how to use it right and stuff. But like, it's like all the divination spells. No one ever takes the divination spells. If you're in a game that isn't entirely hack and slash, divination is an awesome school. Look at it. Talk to, scry person, scry item, find monsters, so on. Claivorance.
Sherlock Holmes got nothing on me.
It's great. Okay. And, that's a good one. Silent Hunter. If you're playing a ranger type or a rogue type, you can maybe take Silent Hunter. And it gives you the ability to... Oh!
Stealth better.
Use stealth better, which is self-explanatory.
You can run into stuff while stealthing and with less of a penalty.
That's awesome, actually, if you think about it, because if you run as an elf in the forest, it makes sense that you're not...
Of course, it's a -20 penalty, but that's...
Well, normally you just can't do it.
Yeah, that's better than not being able to.
Or you can take the feat
Yeah, there's also
and be like, I'm fine.
And it's like, aha!
Here's another really good one. Urbanite. If your elf grew up in the city, what's your player who's the Urbanite elf? It's the, Rob, right?
I don't even know.
The one at lunch that came for help today.
Oh, Joe?
Joe, yeah. Take Urbanite if you're watching, and if he isn't, get him to watch.
He's a half-elf.
Ow. Never mind then. But yeah, if your elf is from the city and you want city-based stats, you can take Urbanite, which basically gives you bonuses to being in the city.
And sense motive and diplomacy and all that fun stuff.
And lastly, it is Woodcraft. Personally, I think all elves should have Woodcraft, just like all dwarves have Stonecraft, but that's my opinion. Basically, you become better at making things.
I'm not dying in forests. That's basically what it says.
Well, if you're an elf, you shouldn't die in forests anyway.
You get +1s to not losing yourself and finding food and stuff like that.
Assuming that you're a forest elf. If you're a desert elf and you go to the forest, perfectly viable, but you know what I mean.
Basically, you don't die in a forest. It's nice.
Yeah.
That's happened once.
Then we're now moving into the racial subtypes. There are 4 here. There is Arctic Elf, Dusk Elf, Savage Elf, and Tower Elf. I'm going to explain these 2 because I like them more. Arctic Elf, essentially, you're used to being in the snow, the cold, the long nights, the so on, and you gain elemental resistances and such applying to that. It makes sense. The other one is the Tower Elf, because we all know I love wizards, and I love arcane classes.
Really?
We all know this. Or anybody who's ever played with me knows this very well. As a Tower Elf, you gain Arcane Focus and Urbanite, which basically amps up your spellcasting abilities and gives you more flavor text of doing it. Like, if I was going to play an Elf Wizard, I would take this and say my family lived in, like, a clan tower or something. And we all studied there for generations, and we all do it. And then when we reach a certain age, you go out in the world to find more arcane lore and tomes to bring back to the family. And it makes sense for the game. Well, most games, at least.
You like running high magic, though.
I like high magic, yes.
That makes more sense for you. You got Dusk Elves. They're not quite drow, but they like the night and stuff like that. They got automated dark vision, dream speaker, and all that, silent hunter, and all that fun stuff. With stealth and night, and gonna stab you in the back while you're sleeping. Things
great for thieves.
Yes, all those rogue thieves, like the rogue elves, like Marisol was her name in the Pathfinder. The rogue for Pathfinder.
The female elf rogue on the GM screen.
Yeah,
her. That nobody knows their names.
She would probably be better Dusk Elf. So
I think she is.
I know the human's name is Valeros.
Everybody knows Valeros.
Oh yeah, because Valeros is a Bamf. But anyway. And we also, and then last we got Savage Elves. Basically, when elves are kicked out of their forests and they're not having a very pleasant time with people, and then kicking them out of society, they become Savage Elves, where you have to struggle and
basically the barbarian elves I was talking about.
Barbarian elves.
The elves that go like, "You're in my territory, I'm going to shoot you now." Or Woodwad had a great example of this. The elves that eat people. I love that. If I find his video, I will put it in the link description below. And if Woodwad is magically watching my videos, thank you. You and a bunch of other people inspired me to make these. Woodwad, Don Forgecast, Tetsubo, Gentleman Gamer, the list goes on and on and on. But yeah, his elves that eat people, I was like, that's so cool.
Basically,
it's really cool.
These Savage Elves have an eternal grudge and fleet-footed and stuff like that. So basically, like, they can have this internal grudge against humans or something who kick them out of society and their forests and stuff like that. Or it could be also kind of like the elves from Dragon Age, who did not like humans very much.
And then they got crushed.
Yeah, they got crushed afterwards, but they still didn't like humans very much.
It's because human.
These were almost savage elves, like the ones in Dragon Age.
Kind of. Well, the elves in Dragon Age are basically wandering nomads.
Yeah.
You know.
So they're kind of like that. Anyways.
Next to the favored class options, as with every race, in this book, you gain bonuses for playing every class. But some classes are obviously better than others.
Cavalier.
Don't let the... Okay, fine. So, you know what, watch, again, there's going to be somebody who plays a Cavalier and say it's awesome, but I've never seen a good Cavalier.
I don't think there's any really good Elf Cavaliers. If you can make a good build for an Elf Cavalier, however...
Or sword,
have fun with that.
Or have a reason for it to work. You know?
You can ride a spider. That'd be kind of cool.
Be a drow.
Or a wolf. Or something. Ooh, a drow Cavalier. That'd be
drow Cavalier who rides one of those spider things. No, that'd be awesome. No,
that'd be awesome.
Think about it. It'd be an Underdark game, though.
Let's focus on normal elves.
Think about imagine if you're a drow riding into a human town, riding on a giant spider. Name one normal human who will not flip out and try to kill you. Or just hide from you. Or scream and run away.
Most of them would probably scream and run away. I would think. I probably would do that too.
You know, it's... At least
especially all those people with arachnophobia.
Oh, what you
Which happen, it's a lot of people.
Yeah, okay. Now...
Sucks for you guys.
Obviously, for each of the classes, you gain bonuses for them. Like, let's see. Let's take a look at the Druid, because Druids are really common. Add 1/3 to the Druid's natural armor bonus when using Wild Shape. Okay. Cool. Or the Ranger... Ooh. Okay. If you're playing a Ranger, basically you gain a bunch of bonuses when you're... Turn on the camera. Okay. When you're using a weapon and you treat it as if it has Elven in its name. So you gain bonuses to it.
And bonuses to critical hit confirmation, which is always nice when you have
Not everybody uses crit confirmation, though. Well, a lot of people do, but not everyone.
If you do, it gives you bonuses to that, which is also nice, because everyone hates when you roll out 20 and you roll a 1 on the crit confirmation. That sucks.
I just have it be a wash at that point, because it's...
Yeah, but still.
Okay. Okay, now...
we'll skip all of those. That's not very fun.
Racial archetypes. Racial archetypes are really cool, but the problem with racial archetypes, as I've seen, can either be really awesome, work into the story really well, and function great and do everything, or it could be a pre-made set list that everybody follows concrete and they're like, and they're all stagnant. So when you're doing a racial archetype like this, especially for the classes, be sure you have like reasons for it and rolling into it and things, not just following it because you're lazy and you just want to set
I'm an elf. I'm an elf.
You know, don't be, I'm an orc and I hit things because I'm an orc and I say wog every time I hit something. Don't.
Wog, wog, wog.
Have a reason, please.
I never heard that one before.
You've clearly never played Warhammer.
Okay, fine. Wog! Okay. So we got the Ancient Lorekeeper. It's a archetype of Oracle. Basically, she just keeps like all these beliefs and knowledges from elves and stuff.
Think of the Keeper in Dragon Age, like the Elven Keeper. They keep all the culture and they keep all the stuff.
She knows things and does stuff with that knowledge. Like, pick more arcanas apparently. So yeah, she knows things, knows some spells, knows some stuff. She basically becomes mostly wizard at that point.
Well, most lore keepers are, because it's a scholarly thing.
Yes.
It makes sense for wizards to take levels of lore keeper.
It's an oracle class though, so.
Oh yeah, but you can always multi-class.
Yes. Anyways, you can take spell dancer.
Okay. If you ever wanted to make a character who's good with swords, great with spells, and can dance everywhere and dance and sing while he's killing everything with his great swords and spells.
Hey, or she. You can't be gender specific. That would be incorrect politically.
Well, sorry.
It's funny because none of our games are politically correct.
Especially mine. Okay, so I'm just going to continue using the male pronoun because it's easier to use he than it. Okay, so the Spell Dancer is a racial archetype for the Magus. So, like, if I wanted to make a spell dancer, I'd take an elf who'd have ranks in perform dance, or maybe a profession dancer or something, or, so on, like that. And when I would describe him in combat, it'd be like he's light on his feet and dancing around, slaying things.
People would think he's a... Well, yeah.
He's an elf. You can't... It's... he's... Metro... He's an elf. You can't... All elves are like that.
Yes.
Well, not all, but most. The stereotype, at least, is.
Elves are gay.
No, we can't be saying that.
I don't need the camera to pick that up. Anyways.
I can. It has... Sorry, okay. Over the levels, you basically gain abilities that are a lot like dances and movements and things. Like at first level, you gain Spell Dance. As you use your spells, it gives you bonuses to dodge and enhancement bonuses to use your spells and move and such. Then at 5th level, you gain Arcane Movement, which gives you competence bonuses to Acrobatics, Climb, Escape Artist, and Stealth equal to the spell's level. So if you cast like Cat's Grace and give yourself +4 Dex, due to this Arcane Movement spell, you also then gain a concentration bonus to that, so you're basically gaining a +8. So now you're not only as graceful as a cat, you're also being arcanely movement to make that climb check or that acrobatics check or whatever. It's basically to pass that crazy DC when you describe your elf spell dancer to be running off a roof doing a triple backflip while rotating and spinning and then landing on his horse and running away.
Yeah, things they normally do all the time.
Because you're an elf and...
That's also what adventurers do all the time. Throw a woman 50 feet up in the air, grab them on their horses.
And then right away.
And right away into the sunset.
And then they... Never mind. Okay.
And then that's where the story ends. Nothing ever happens after that.
There's always... And then, since this actually matches up with the Magus class, you still gain bonuses to your Magus Arcana and other things as you go. Completely lost my train of thought. Sorry.
One thing to mention, though, is that the spell dancers don't wear armor.
Well, it's like the Kensai. If you're dancing, okay.
No, like, the Magus, like, at higher level, he can wear heavy armor and do all this stuff with no penalty.
That's if you take that form of Magus. You can always play Kensai Magus and just wear this,
But it's important to note that.
Okay, yeah, you don't wear armor, but can you imagine... The only real dance I can imagine you dancing in full plate would be, I'm Robot Man. No, think about it.
Rico.
You're not going to be waltzing in full plate.
Anyways.
If you make a video response of you waltzing in full plate, and you get your girlfriend or boyfriend or whoever is watching this, it did also waltz with you in full plate, I will send you a full box of Thin Mints.
First of all, and also, congratulations on getting 2 full sets of full plate. That's impressive.
Yes. But, if you're still watching, thanks again. Okay, now.
How do you guys do that?
A few people actually sticked around for the entire dwarf video, which is really nice.
I did.
Yeah. Now, for the next one, wizards. We all know I love my wizards. This one is the Spellbinder.
Yeah.
Basically, the Spellbinder, instead of having an arcane bond with an item, you form a bond with a spell. Your wizard loves this spell so much, he's like, it's fused with him. And that's what you do. So let's say I'm an elf who's a pyromancer, a wizard who just loves fire magic, and I do a spell bond with my fireball spell. It becomes more powerful, it works more, and I can use it more times per day, because this elf is a pyromaniac, crazy person, and his clan kicked him out because he burned down half the forest.
Yeah, it happens a lot.
Fire!
It happens every couple hundred years. Quite often.
And it also gives you a few more discoveries when using that type of spell. And it just works really well if that's what you think. But you have to work with it for it to work well. But you have to keep in mind, Spell Bond replaces your Arcane Bond, so that means you cannot take an Arcane Bond or a Familiar if you take it.
Oh, it means you can't Arcane Bond your longbow.
Yeah, that's true. It kind of closes some doors on you, but it opens you up in other ways, Because who doesn't want to cast Fireball a lot of times per day? Because Fireball is awesome.
Who doesn't use Fireball? If you're a wizard, you don't use Fireball. You're either doing something really good or really wrong.
It's like a wizard not taking Magic Missile.
My God.
Every wizard knows Magic Missile.
Well, actually, if you're running a game and if you don't have to use Magic Missile, that's good. That's interesting. Good job. But anyways.
Yeah.
And then we got the Druid archetype, the Tree Slinger. Basically, you when you all your druid spells focus more around the plant stuff around the druid line. Like when you wild shape at level 4, you become instead of turning into animals and stuff, you focus more on the plant, turning into plant monsters and
So
stuff.
you transform into a treant. I am a giant tree now.
Well, not at level 4, but yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And then also you instead of like an animal bond, you get or any stuff like that, you get a plant bond. So your bond is with like a you can
So you're saying I can bond with like a ficus? And I carry my ficus in like a pot with me?
Yes. You can inform to have a close bond with a plant companion.
Is it a sentient plant companion?
I'm pretty sure it is.
I want an elf who has an arcane bond with a ficus, and I will name him Jimmy, and I will carry him on my back, and I will walk around, and it's just...
What happens if someone casts fireball on you?
Then they die, because they're
No!
Jimmy.
Jimmy!
It is not Jimmy the ficus. And he'll be in a giant pot on my back.
Wilson! And then, so basically you make a bond with a plant, which is kind of cool.
Making a monster called that, Jimmy the ficus. Right, 1 second.
It's pretty cool. And you also gain green empathy, which basically acts like the wild empathy for the druid, except with plant creatures. So yeah, it's kind of cool. Like Ryan said, you can plant companions. Look right here. There's carnivorous flowers, puffballs, which are floating funguses. Crawling vines.
They give you all the rules for the plant companions.
Personally, I like Jimmy the ficus more.
I want Jimmy the ficus now.
He may be useless, but he's hilarious.
It's a ficus.
He's a. And maybe one day I'll just save your butt. Maybe we'll just throw Jimmy the ficus at someone. Jimmy will
you animate Jimmy the ficus as he grows. So as he levels, he grows more with you, and then you make plant armor. And you
basically there's a picture of a tree slinger druid with a sapling or something right there.
Yeah, works.
His name's Timmy.
Timmy.
He's not Jimmy. His name's Timmy.
Oh, okay.
Timmy the little itty bitty shrub.
Okay, so now here comes the fun part. New racial rules, which is basically the equipment and feats and materials. One of the first thing that's on this list that's really nice, they brought back the Artificer Lab.
And it's portable.
Yay, it's a portable Artificer Lab.
You can carry it on your back.
My question is, why is the Artificer Lab with the elves? I understand elves can be artificers.
Okay,
but
also...
you think that'd be a general thing. Like, there can be human artificers, dwarf artificers, gnome artificers. Why is it in the elven section?
Well, they have to throw it somewhere.
But they could have stored it anywhere.
And they also have bear bags, which isn't really an elf invention. I mean, we have those. I mean, they're bear bags.
Well, is it a magic? It's a magic item, I think.
I don't think so. It's just a bear bag.
Yeah, basically.
We've come up with those. I mean, elves didn't have to come up with that.
They have the compact spellbook, which is basically a spellbook that's smaller. Like, imagine the traveling spellbook, but it's smaller. This one's only 70 pages, so it's like a pocket book of spells.
They also have the Arcane Family Workbook, which basically allows them to...
A lot of wizard stuff.
Yes, wizard stuff.
Essentially, a lot of wizard stuff. And then a hanging tent.
Hanging tents, those are cool.
Alright, imagine the hanging tent. Like, just think about this for a second. If you have a hanging tent, I'd imagine, since you're hanging in the air, all the weight would sink to the bottom, right? So, just work with me for a second. If you take your male elf, who has a thing for another female character, you invite her to sleep in your tent, right? Or whatever. Or you create a situation where they have to stay in your tent, right?
Why do I have to go that way
direction? You use your hanging tent, which will force them to slide together. That's indirect headline. Hanging tent. Or you could do...
Only 20 GP, one-time offer.
I'm buying it now. It's a hanging tent. I want a hanging tent.
And I also got special materials listed here too.
Okay, like if you have ultimate equipment, they have the special materials pages like mithril, cold iron, adamant, so on. Here they have the dark leaf cloth, which is basically, it's a cloth that functions like medium armor or better armor. You know, it functions better. And it's harder and it works good. Then you have Werroot, which is basically kind of like dark wood, but a little different. It's
Werroot.
I think it's lighter. Isn't it lighter?
I believe so, maybe.
Or is it cheaper?
It looks pretty cheap.
So, yeah, it's cheaper.
Oh, that's cloth, actually. Oh, well, I guess.
Increase the cost by 4,000 GP. So if you want the weapon to be made, I believe that is cheaper than Darkwood, because I believe Darkwood is 6 or 8.
Yeah, it's cheaper. It absorbs life, it looks like. Or absorb, if you're a Magus, or something that uses ki, it absorbs.
So if I walk
points
up and
and stuff.
touch you with my stick of warwood, I absorb your hit points.
I think it absorbs ki points and stuff like
Well,
that.
whatever.
Arcane pools.
Whatever functions, right? Now the new elven feats.
Woo!
I love having a giant selection of feats, but I can't be the only person who's ever sat there looking at the feat list going, which one do I choose?
So
Because there's so many
choices.
feats. That's why I like humans. I have an extra feat.
Human fighters, 3 feats at level 1.
Yeah, but it's a fighter. I don't like fighters.
Yeah, I've heard.
You've played with me for how many years now?
Alright, so...
Now, here's attuned to the wild. Elves are already so attuned to the wild. With this feat, you're attuned even more.
Yay!
Gives you bonuses to being in the forest and such. And when you heal hit points during a full night's rest, the hit points that you gain are doubled. Which could be really useful if you guys don't really have, if you have low healing games, like if you guys don't have a cleric, or if you don't have heal potions, or if you have a very mean GM who just keeps hitting you with everything.
Cleric just runs out of healing spells.
That could happen too. You know.
Alright, they got Elven battle training in here too. Basically, you receive even more training with all those longbows and rapiers and elven curved swords and stuff like that. So you get +2 bonuses to CMD and disarm and fun stuff like that.
So basically,
You're more familiar with their weapons.
It's just an elf who's been trained so hard. It's really great for fighters, or martial-based classes where you're just trained.
The Magus, for instance.
Something I want to do with the Magus. Hopefully, this fits in the rule set. I want to get a Magus who uses a rapier. Make that rapier my arcane bond, and so I can channel through it. Now, this is what I want to do. I want to take my rapier and take improved call shot and call shot to someone's throat. Stab them in the throat. Then, before removing my blade, I want to channel a spell through my sword, because Maguses can do that if I have 2 attacks. And I wish to channel either an exploding spell or a spell that pushes everything apart, so it will push my enemy's head off.
Good luck.
I want that. But whether it works or not.
Yeah, I think after a couple combat maneuvers and some called shots and some missed shots, I think you can eventually do it, pull it off.
Eventually, I just want to do it at least once. The next one is Guardian of the Wild. You're an elf who's basically so much loving the forest so much, you gain bonuses when you're defending the forest. You're basically... Imagine elf, now imagine hippie elf. This is hippie elf. You love nature to the point that you want to marry it.
I'm a forest man. Alright. They got Mage of the Wild too, which is once again another wizard feat. Elves love being wizards.
Or arcane. It doesn't necessarily, or druid actually, because this doesn't state.
You get a bonus to caster level checks, concentration, knowledge checks, and all that fun stuff when you're in the area you got for your attuned to the wild thing.
So if you're attuned to being in a forest or desert or whatever,
or the Arctic,
or you're a mage in that area, you gain the bonuses. My question is, can I attune to the city if I'm an urbanite elf?
I assume you just pick. Oh no, except for urban. Never mind.
Oh, it doesn't. Oh, okay.
Nope.
Fine.
Sucks for you, urbanites.
No, because I think
should have stayed in the forest.
What if I'm? No, that's loopholes. All right. Finally, Spirit of the Wild. Okay, basically, you get this. I want to make sure I do this right because it's an interesting one to explain. Okay, you gain bonuses to your perception checks when you're in the terrain that you chose. If you act in a surprise round, you gain blind sense of a range of 30 feet during your surprise round while you're in that setting. And if you're in the area that qualifies for more than one type of terrain, these boundaries do not stack. So, if you're attuned to being in a forest and you act during a surprise round, not only do you gain a bonus to perception, you gain blind sense. Which makes sense with elves, because then you know of everything around you. So, yay. So, and also with the bonus to perception, and I don't know about you guys, but is this a trend in your games? Druids have absurdly high perception stats.
They gotta see what goes down in their forests.
If you notice this though, I've seen 3 or 4 druids now with a bonus to perception that's absurd. Plus 30.
They gotta see what's going down in that forest.
Okay. Next up, if you're still watching, thanks. Next comes a really fun part: the magic items, which aren't
fun.
Which aren't necessarily just stuck to elves. Other people can use these, but it'd be a bit harder. Like it'd be not necessarily harder.
Elves make them.
Yeah, they're elven items. Like, I'll let you do the bracers of vengeance.
The bracers of sworn vengeance. Basically, you wear these bracers, and then they have etched upon them reading "Swift Defeat" and the other "Vengeance." And then basically once a day, as immediate action, when someone really pisses you off and hits you with his big claymore, and you're like dying on the floor. Well, not dying, but you may cry, "Death to those who wrong me," and you swear vengeance against your attacker, and you get +1 bonuses to your weapon rolls against the target. And then more damage too, which is also nice. And basically, you must focus on him. If you don't, you get negative to your attack rolls. So basically, you scare the crap out of whoever just hits you.
For example, if I take my Tree Singer Druid, which I'm actually really considering playing with Jimmy the Ficus, and you wear your gauntlets, and somebody touches Jimmy, my Ficus.
Actually, they have to do damage to you first, but
whatever.
Yes.
Does it state lethal or non-lethal?
No, it does not.
Okay.
No, it does not.
Now, death upon those who hurt my Jimmy the Ficus, and then you just slay them, or you hurt them in some way. So
you flick them, and if you're level 20, they fly 50
Or you
feet.
pick up Jimmy and throw it at him, and the Jimmy like starts growing all over them and like consumes them. Are there carnivorous plant stats?
Yes, there are. They're just there.
Jimmy the Ficus shall be a carnivorous plant that when he grows on my enemies,
carnivorous flower.
Eat them.
It's a speed small, climb 10 feet, AC natural 2, blah 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 blah. Blah.
You can.
Yep.
Okay.
Fun stuff like
yes. That. Jimmy the man-eating Ficus. Yes.
Okay. That's going in the game.
I'm making that now. Okay. Gauntlets of skill at arms. Basically, it gives you bonuses to your weapons. Because it's skill at arms. So, they are gauntlets, so they take up your hand slots. And if you have ultimate equipment, you realize how many slots there are in Pathfinder. There were more than I thought. There were...
like an amulet slot, 2 ring slots,
there's
body,
like 14.
legs.
There's literally like 14 slots. It's...
Pants of more pants.
There's pants, then there's shirt, then there's armor, then there's gauntlet, then there's cape, then there's robes. I got into an interesting argument. If I'm wearing robes of eyes, which gives me 360 degree, which is my robe slot, my chest slot, then if I wear a cape of something, which is on my shoulders, but it's covering my robe of eyes, do I still see behind me because the cape's in the way? Or not? Because the item would logically cover my robe.
Yeah, but maybe the eyes are magical.
They are magical, but it doesn't like give me X-ray vision or anything.
Maybe they're Superman eyes.
That would constitute X-ray.
Or maybe you make a perception check whenever you try to look behind you.
If you think my robes of eyes should see through the cape that's over my wizard's shoulders, say so. If not...
Don't.
Whatever. Please? No. Okay, whatever. Next one. The ripoff from the dwarves of gloves of dwarven kind are the gloves of elven kind.
Very creative.
Basically, they gave you a +5 competence bonus on spellcraft checks and concentration checks. So if you want a wizard that has an even more powerful spellcraft, wear gloves of elven kind. Which makes sense. Because if you're an elf and you channel your spell through your gloves, make it better.
Yep.
You know. Is there a spell resistance percentage fail? No.
No.
Hooray.
It doesn't go past spell resistance. It doesn't say anything about spell resistance here, so that sucks.
Oh well. I want a magic item that lets me ignore spell resistance.
Spell resistance?
It would be broken.
But, yes. Alright, and I got spells.
Time for the elven spells. The racial spells, it comes down to your GM if he or she or it will let you use other racial spells. Currently, I say if you want to use an elven spell, you should be an elf of some kind. Or unless you have a very good reason for knowing it. Other GMs might say, oh, you can learn any spell. Or some GMs might say, you have to be an elf to use elf spells, or a dwarf to use dwarf spells, but that comes down to your game. So, I'll leave that up.
So yeah, they got Blend. Basically, you have to be a level 1, basically any caster. Almost, except for Summoner and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, for 10 minutes of level, you can, you get bonuses to stealth and concealment and stuff like that. and you can make stealth checks without concealment, which is also really nice. But basically it blends you around like around like if you're in the forest and you, once again the forest because we're talking about elves. If you're hiding the bush, you just cast blend like I look like a bush.
Think of kind of like Old Snick from Metal Gear Solid 4's active camo suit.
Yeah, kind of like that.
You cast it and you like change.
Or Chameleon from Oblivion.
But no, unlike Chameleon though, if you make an attack, the spell ends as invisibility.
Yes.
So you can attack or do certain actions while blended.
Alright.
Now here comes a really long spell. Ward of the Season. It's a bit long. Basically... Okay. It's 4 spells in one, basically, because it gives you 4 different effects for each one. And the total duration is 1 hour. For Spring... Basically, whenever you're below 0 hit points, you stay alive. Which is great and all, but I can see how that can be used in very bad ways and very good ways. For example, you cast it on your Dwarven Cleric here and he doesn't die. But at the same time, he doesn't die. I mean this as in, if you're fighting, let's say, like a dragon or a drake or something that's very nasty, and he isn't dying, he will continue to feel pain or such things while being whacked. At 0 hit points, arguably.
And that's when you see a dwarf cry.
Dead. Or you can be unconscious, and then you can argue that, but there are funky ways these can be twisted. Summer basically gives, the summer spell effect gives you a bunch of lights that last for an hour.
Ooh.
Fall is a cloak of autumn of leaves around the target, basically gives you a bonus to fort saves, and... Oh, it gives you. It basically just buffs your constitution. Not your constitution itself. It makes you more. What's the adjective I'm looking for?
Not weak.
Hardy, I guess. You basically gain bonuses to fortitude and morale and such things, and you gain bonuses against diseases and poisons and such. Finally, for winter, you basically stop yourself from slipping on ice, which is
That happens a lot.
which is nice if you think about it.
I mean,
Because the acrobatics checks when slipping on certain ice with your armor penalties can really mess you up.
Yeah.
If you think about it. Like, it's like...
I haven't actually ever thought about running a game in ice.
I have. It's not fun. Running combat on ice becomes a bit tedious because when you're running on ice, you have to make the acrobatics checks, and you have to make the balance checks, and then you have to...
Or if the fighter wearing heavy armor and a tower shield, you just say you fail.
Or you can just say you fall through the ice, and now you're drowning in the liquid lake that's beneath it.
Which you can't swim in because you're wearing armor.
Unless your swim shield's like 20.
Ridiculous.
Yeah,
Like,
it's like...
so.
Okay. If you're wearing full plate, you shouldn't be able to swim. Think about it. It's anywhere from 20 to 60 pounds of steel.
I have a hard time swimming in jeans.
Think about how heavy the steel... Or, that's assuming it's steel. What if you're wearing adamantine full plate? And you're a dwarf.
Yeah. Well, great.
At that point, water breathing, water breathing, water breathing.
And you kind of climb yourself out instead of swim.
Basically. Whispering Lore is a spell that basically gives you bonuses to your lore checks. And your bonuses to your insight, and your knowledge, and your so on and so forth, and the fun things. Here's the funny thing. Its component is an owl's beak. I just imagine trying to get that component. Alright, Al. Alright. I just need your beak. Alright.
No.
Thank you.
I imagine the druid just like climbing the trees, like going into the owl's nest, like, okay. Give me your beak, owl! Just like ripping it off. I don't want to kill it because I'm a druid, but I'll rip your beak off.
But then it will die slowly and painfully.
Then I heal it later with my spells.
Okay.
I can imagine that druid.
No, you rip off the owl beak to find out how you heal a owl beak being torn off. Okay, that is actually the entire section on elves. Now that my camera is now somewhat functioning, we should be able to do videos actually every week now. So we should finish Race of the Week now, or just better, or sooner. So thank you for everybody who subscribed in the meantime and watching and support and all that. We're slowly pounding out the process of explaining every race in here. But for elves, remember there's a lot of things you can do and there's a lot of stuff you can do.
They don't have to be forest elves too. That's That's the stereotype everyone falls into.
Like-
elves are in the forest, I live in the trees, and I jumped from tree to tree all day firing my bow.
Yeah, like we mainly talked about forest elves because that's the thing that people mainly run, but you can just as valid be as a desert elf, an arctic elf, an urbanite elf. Sorry for the cut in video. That was the maximum stick. We've actually filled up the entire camera stick. This is the ending. Say bye.
Bye.
Thanks for watching.